Hey, what up, YouTube, and welcome back to the Barlow Zone, home of the one and only demon hunter King Kaido himself, recruited from Starfleet Academy. How's everybody doing today? And as promised, I just got done watching episode 1 of Starfleet Academy. I got some notes. I'm gonna do this one once again in the 3 chapter setup I've been trying to lean towards lately, right? Uh, just to be fully upfront, a lot of this is positive. My final thoughts may not reflect that thought, okay? So I just want to be upfront with everybody. Uh, as somebody, okay, you know what? But before I get into my thoughts on episode 1 of Starfleet Academy, I want to give you guys a little bit of my history with the franchise, right? Because Star Trek is I don't want to go too much into my personal life because you guys are here for fun, right? You're not here to hear about Barlow's rough upbringing or whatever, right? Because as bad as it was, I made life hard for other people as well. So I don't want to focus on the bad stuff. Star Trek was one of the good memories I have with my father. What it was, Star Trek, BMX, skiing, uh, building models. Oh man, we used to build the hell out of some model airplanes when I was younger. But other than that, I spent a lot of time at school because I didn't want to be at home, right? And that kind of is where my critical thinking really started, right? Because from a young age, I was looking at the world differently than how most kids do. And Star Trek, The Next Generation, was a huge part of that. I loved Captain Picard. I loved Riker. I love Deanna Troy. Wesley Crusher's one of my favorites. On the off chance that he's watching, Will Wheaton, my dude, I love you. And everything you've done for tabletop gaming since you got done with that role. But The Next Generation isn't even my favorite series in the franchise. It's just the one I have the most nostalgic memories with because it was good times with my pops, right? My personal favorite Star Trek series is Deep Space Nine. Commander Sisko, Captain Sisko, at season 7, I understand it was a wartime promotion. If you do not want him on the list of best captain in Star Trek history, I can't knock you there. I really can't. But I would like to argue that even as Commander Sisko, he was still living up to the legacy of what a Star Trek captain was. So for me personally, Sisko 100% on the debate for best captain in Star Trek history, right? Janeway doesn't even get a point 0.000000001% second of thought. Worst captain in history. Let me know in the comments how bad that just enraged you. But I've been with this series since I was a kid. Now, I was born in 91. I think me and my pop started watching reruns of The Next Generation around 96, 97. So, I love Star Trek. You guys might see I'm rocking the Star Wars shirt again. That is going to come up later. I like Star Wars. I am much more a Star Trek fan, though. So, with a little bit of Barlow history with the franchise set aside, what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to break it down into the good, the bad, and the final thoughts. I don't normally like to have the bad stuff towards the end of a video, but I really feel like my final thoughts are going to clear up a lot about that and allow the video to end on kind of a positive note, right? Like somewhere where everybody can be happy with what's going on so far. So we'll go ahead and dive on into the bad. Because while I only have 4 notes here, and by comparison, let's see, we're going to count those as 1, 2, 3, 4. I do have five positive notes. So it does, on surface level, seem like I got more to say about the positive, right? You know what? Screw it. Well, we're going with my mistake. We're going to start with the bad because evidently I just really don't like having that close to the end. Getting into the bad, we'll start off really light on this one. The intro theme. Now I understand it's episode 1. The music that played at the beginning probably isn't even the intro proper. I'll probably get a better idea for that in episode 2. But the music, the theme song, right? Like that is as much a part of Star Trek as the captain, as the crew, as the ship, as the adventures that they go on. That introduction theme, it stirs just as much nostalgia in people as hearing the name Captain Kirk, hearing the name Ambassador Spock, or Captain Picard, or Captain Riker, whatever, right? Like, yeah, those names stir up the nostalgia, but you could hear a tune in a movie or show. It's like, oh man, that kind of reminds me of Deep Space Nine. Like, oh, I'm invested in this show now. That is just as much a part of Star Trek as the show itself. And this one was just really lackluster. I didn't feel anything. There wasn't that swell of, okay, and we're going to get into a little bit more of that later, I guess, but there wasn't the swell of, man, things are bad, but I got hope. Like there wasn't anything inside me after the introduction scenes, right, that made me feel like hope was still on the table. It was just a couple of notes, throw up the Starfleet Academy logo, move on. Now, again, I hope that's going to change in episode 2 and moving forward. But for episode 1, that was a really bad look to start with, considering this is something that is as much a part of your show as everything else that you spent your time crafting for episode 1. Moving on, though, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I have an issue with I'm going to say repellent lack of Bajorans on Bajor when we see it. Now, to anybody who knows Deep Space Nine, you might understand why this irritates me, right? Because Bajor largely never wanted to be a part of Starfleet, right? So after this incident, they called the burn, I guess, is what they called it, right? I suppose I haven't watched Discovery. I'll be honest, after Voyager, I kind of didn't much care for what Star Trek was doing after Gene Roddenberry died, right? But Deep Space Nine, like some of y'all might know, it took a while for that show to get off the ground because Gene Roddenberry had passed before, and there was talks of just stopping the franchise because Gene was gone. The guy with the ideas, the person who created this franchise, right? But one of his sons, and actually it might have been multiple of his children, decided they also wanted to keep their dad's legacy alive, right? Keep the show going. The fans love this. We love writing it. This exploration of space is something that will always fascinate humans, right? So after some years of debate, no doubt countless conference room like arguments, whatever, it might even have been a food fight in there. Who knows? Deep Space Nine eventually got off the ground. And the key planet in that show, because it was focused on a space station, to anybody who doesn't know, Deep Space Nine is one of the only Star Trek shows that wasn't aboard, what do they call it? The Starship, I guess. It might just be Starship. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. I am going off. It was on a space station near the edge of Federation space, orbiting a planet called Bajor, kind of supervising a wormhole that led to a distant part of the galaxy, right? Notably, Bajor never really wanted to be a part of Starfleet. Like, they were willing to accept the help against the Cardassians because that was an uber threat for them, right? Like, Starfleet's the reason that the Cardassians no longer controlled Bajor. Fun fact, Deep Space Nine is actually a construct of the Cardassians. Starfleet just came in and took that ship over, right? So the lack of Bajorans here, if you're going to go out of your way to show Bajor as the planet that your new captain retired to, right? You're invoking a lot of emotions and thoughts from people who are connected to this planet and its people. Because I'm just going to say it, the truth of the matter is, after the burn, Bajor never would have realigned with Starfleet. Like that, as I said, they never wanted to in the first place. And then now Starfleet tech just annihilated mass bajillions of lives and planets. Bajor never would have realigned with Starfleet after that. Having Bajor as part of Starfleet itself is a plot hole right here, right? With the incident that I guess Discovery set up with the burn, right? Again, I've never watched Discovery. I've heard middling things. I probably will never interact with that series. Especially, after I did some research on the burn, and it seems like that was a really big plot point for that show, right? You know what, I'm gonna just say it. The burn should have never happened. That was CBS, Paramount, whoever's in control of Star Trek now, that was them trying to nuke and reset the canon. They want to get away from the idea of what Star Trek is. And personally, I can't endorse that. We're going to go ahead and move on, though. Enough of the Bajor debate. Because one of the really interesting or curious, not really interesting, but curious points that came up, right, is, as I've been mentioning, the burn was a catastrophic event throughout the galaxy. Countless lives lost, planets destroyed. I'll put it to you like this. The Klingon Empire, one of the first races introduced by Gene Roddenberry himself, the Klingon Empire has been decimated. 8 houses left, and they barely want to associate with Starfleet anymore. I need to move on. Okay. This next point. I'm sorry, y'all. That got me riled up. The burn, right? So, from my understanding, basically what it was the dilithium that regulated the matter-antimatter warp drive engines that Starfleet uses, destabilized, caused insane explosions everywhere, right? They're still using dilithium. Like, I get it. I guess, throughout Discovery, Starfleet had did a mandate. They're like, hey, we need something to replace this, right? Like, that they were looking into it. And, from what I've read, it looks like that there was a colony of Romulans and Vulcans who were close, who were onto something that might have worked, right? But they decided it was too dangerous and shouldn't be mucked around with, right? So I take issue with you have used this event, right? The burn. You've used this event to wreak havoc across your franchise. Just absolute destruction raining down on everything that's already been. And you turn around and you continue to use this? Bro, it's like, I'm going to say it like this because it's the closest approximation I can come up with. It's like the Flashpoint and CW's The Flash, which I finally got done watching. Barlow endorsement, watch seasons 1 through 5, maybe 6. Don't watch the back half of 6 because that's when the crisis event starts happening. But there were so many flashpoints in that show, dude. Like, it was wild. Even the ending seemed like it was probably leaning towards another Flashpoint incident. And that's what this dilithium feels like in Star Trek now, right? It's the easy out. If they ever muck up too bad, just another dilithium crisis. All right, let's wash our hands and restart. That's not good writing. That is not good writing. Like, I really hope I'm not the only person that feels like that. But that is just terrible. Once the dilithium becomes a problem, a superpower like Starfleet should have immediately stopped using it across the board. Hey, so what? Maybe we have to go a couple centuries without warp technology. But now we got a fire burning under our asses to develop something to replace dilithium regulating matter and antimatter. Starfleet being dumb. And the final point, this is my biggest one and the reason I'm wearing the Star Wars shirt today. You're gonna have a battle like this in episode 1? An ambush, surprise attack, fisticuffs, ships against ship. Like, Star Trek's forgotten what it's about. Like, that they 100% have forgotten what they were about. And as much as it pains me to say this, because I love this series so much, he is my captain, it is Deep Space Nine's fault. The first 6 seasons of Deep Space Nine, yeah, you know, that there was some battle here and there. The Cardassians were a threat. The Romulans decided to stick their noses where it didn't belong again, right? The Klingons even got re-involved. Like, dude, like, it was wild. It was crazy. But the wars, the battles, the little skirmishes were never the focus. It was still an exploration, a knowledge-seeking series up until the Dominion War in season 6 and 7, right? Which is, like I said, ultimately it was a wartime promotion, Commander Sisko to Captain Sisko during the Dominion War. But that Dominion War took up about a season and a half of the show, and honestly, looking back at it, unbiased, willing to throw mud in the face of my favorite show, is the turning point. That's when Star Trek started trying to be more like Star Wars. Which is sad, because you know what? Even back then, even back in the day when I was, you know, the Next Generation stan, this was back before I started watching Deep Space Nine, right? I still enjoyed Star Wars. It was a fun watch. You know, lightsabers are cool, the blasters are cool, Han Solo's, I liked Star Wars. It was just, it wasn't my go-to. Something about the idea of looking up into the vast blackness of space, right? And knowing that there's something out there that you don't know about yet, and that's always tickled my brain, right? So I fell in love with Star Trek because it was about exploration, it was about knowledge, it was about science, it was about creating interspecies, interplanetary relations with people you probably have no business having positive relations with, right? Like, take a look, the OG series, Star Trek, right? Klingons were the bad guys. By the time of the Next Generation, Commander Worf, or Lieutenant Worf, had been enlisted for a while. Like, yes, he was half human, whatever. Like, it made him the perfect bridge for the Klingons and Federation, right? And that worked out beautifully. Klingons went on to further develop their lore throughout the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, right? With the Next Generation, you had the Romulans. They were an especially targeted nuisance for the Federation because not only were they especially brutal, they still retained, you know, a modicum of that intelligence that their Vulcan brethren had before, you know, the Romulans split off from them. And then Deep Space Nine, obviously we had the Cardassian threat in the beginning, then the Dominion War later on. The Dominion War, like, even this series, I don't know if Enterprise or Discovery had any in them as well, but this series with oh man, I should have written down her name. Honestly, by the end of the episode, she was kind of cool. Like, I kind of liked her. But the Jem'Hadar have made a comeback. That was the biologically created species that the Dominion made to be their military force. We saved them, made them allies. Like, come on, man. Star Trek is not about space battles. It's not about wars. It's exploration. It's the desire to know more about what surrounds you. But as I said, I have to blame that at least partially on my favorite Star Trek series. We're going to go ahead and move on to the good. Jumping back up here, I do want to say, as much as I didn't like the theme that went along with the intro. The intro sequence was especially brutal and takes a moment to show just how effed up the Federation is. There is no justice in this scene. Like, this is not justice. This is not what Picard and Kirk and Cisco and all of our favorites stood for. Like, they would have realized that this man was manipulating this woman and her child to, as a means to his own end. Taking Caleb away from his mom was the show got me from the start. I wanted to know how that story ended. So, like, that is 100% a good thing, right? You start off brutal, right? Yeah, like, it's sad. It is messed up to watch. I almost shed a tear. I'm not gonna lie. Watching that mom with her son, like, it was brutal. But it was used as a way to show the flaws in Starfleet. And then the following scene with damn, I already forgot her name. The captain. The following scene ended up showing us that she retired. She did not agree with this decision. This decision broke her and she left Starfleet because of it, right? Okay, cool. We're setting up our good guys, right? So we got a kid on the run. We got a disillusioned captain. And, just more to come, more to come. Real quick, because with that first scene in the academy, all the students standing there, captain's giving her speech from the bridge, right? I noticed a couple names here that really made me smile, right? I paused, I looked through every one of them lines. Lieutenant Nog. Oh, let's go, Ferengi. Like, even the Ferengi are now Starfleet allies, boy. Or at least were, because this is hundreds of years. Nog's probably dead by now. But Captain Montgomery Scott, our boy Scotty, he finally figured out how to get more out of that warp drive, right? Like, I'm giving it all she's got, Captain. That was terrible. Flame me for that, please. Please flame me for that. He finally figured out how to give the ship more. But man, these two absolutely floored me. Because the Next Generation is one of my favorites, right? Admiral Beverly Crusher. I always knew it was going to get there, right? Like, of everybody on Picard's crew, aside from Picard, like, not even Riker, in my opinion, had the ability to reach the level of Admiral, right? He was too high-headed, too passionate, which isn't a bad thing, right? Like, you want a captain who's willing to lay it all out there for the sake of his crew. And then Admiral Leonard McCoy. I mean, come on, Bonesy, you made it, my man. The level. Both doctors made Admiral. That just clicked for me. I am sorry, y'all. That just clicked. Moving on, I was talking about Klingons before, and y'all might remember I was especially shut down when I was talking about what happened to the Klingon Empire, right? My man, Ensign Cragg, he might just become my new favorite character. Like, a Klingon who wants a valiant life. Oh, that is beautiful. That is like if Worf said what he actually wanted, right? Worf didn't live like a man who wanted to die on the battlefield. Worf lived like a man who wanted to have a good life, do good things for the people around him. And our boy Cragg here just, man, I loved it. I don't want a valiant death. I want to live a valiant life. My man, you got me. You got me. Keep it going. Moving along. Man, that was really cool. I loved how we're getting closer towards the end of the episode now. Oh, yeah, sorry. I didn't actually have an X or a check mark next to this one because it was a two-part note. At the beginning of the episode, I thought it was a blue Klingon, right? It didn't click for me, the horns and the ridges, until later on when the AI girl was pointing out, hey, Jem'Hadar's heart's right about where you're about to extract that piece of metal from, right? Be careful. Then it clicked for me, oh yeah, she is a Jem'Hadar, right? And then it clicked for me, she. So the Jem'Hadar joined Starfleet get some freedom, and learn how to become an actual race of their own. That is, honestly, Gene probably would have been so proud of that development. That is beautiful. That is classic OG, the next generation Star Trek right there. Just beautiful. And the reason it's a two-part note, just real quick, so you guys have a little bit of light on my thought process, right? My first note, I don't know if you guys can see it. Blue Klingons, what the? And then I added, or Jem'Hadar, right? And then I arrowed down because you know what? This retcon was something that was added post-Gene. I am okay with that because it is a retcon. The Jem'Hadar were always all male and always all biologically produced. They were incapable of self-reproduction, which is weird. How long did that race have to survive to evolve reproductive organs to be able to mate with a Klingon, right? Which is really cool because if you think about any race that would have meshed with the Jem'Hadar just absolutely perfectly, it's the Klingon. And man, I really hope that's not why Discovery set up the burn. I really hope. Oh man, I need to move past the burn. I need to move past the burn, which I'm not going to be able to do with this series. I already know that. I see that. Final positive note before we move on. Caleb Meir. I understand. This guy's just enlisting, right? This is a cadet. This is somebody who has their entire future ahead of him or no future at all. We still don't know, right? But he is shades of Captain Kirk in all the best ways. This guy is a classic Gene Roddenberry Star Trek captain in the making. And as much as I believe this show is aimed at a younger audience, this is Star Trek trying to get a new generation of fans on board, right? That's all well and good. The next generation's a bit older, right? Like it's not Doctor Who old, you know. It's not that difficult to watch, especially with Patrick Stewart in the lead. I'd honestly argue that the OG series is much more difficult to watch in this day and age. But you know, the next generation, Deep Space Nine, those were 90s, early 2000s series, right? They took a shot in the early 2000s with Enterprise after Voyager. I don't accept Voyager. Just like the Doctor was cool. I really liked that. I do not accept Voyager 1,000,000% because of Janeway. Is what it is. I'll move along. Because I'm really liking Caleb's story. We're going to go ahead and move into, good God, 28 minutes. We're going to move into final thoughts before I drag this on to an hour, y'all. So my final thoughts. What is Barlow thinking after episode 1 of Star Trek Fleet Academy? It's off to a solid start. There were hiccups, little speed bumps, some things that need to be tweaked and worked on. But it's off to a solid start, and they're dancing a very dangerous line, because wanting new fans is one thing. That's acceptable. Any franchise that wants to continue to live on eventually reaches a point of needing new fans, new people interacting with it, right? We even see this in World of Warcraft right now. With the World Soul Saga and a lot of the marketing around these 3 expansions being about Blizzard trying to make it known that their game's more accessible and they want people to give Azeroth a chance, right? And that's all well and good. That you do you. You want to survive, then put in the work, right? Like, nobody but you is going to make sure you survive. Sorry, my laptop cut off. I wanted to make sure my lighting wasn't about to get mucked up. To that point, Gene's canon needs to be preserved, okay? I understand at this point, Hollywood is out of ideas, that there isn't an original idea left in those people. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Everything coming out of Hollywood is a remake of something old. a retelling of something old or an adaptation of something that's already existed for a while. Hollywood has no more good ideas. That is what it is. That doesn't mean you have the right to take things that are already established and absolutely destroy them in an attempt to gain new fans. This harkens back to what I said about Deep Space Nine, right? That show almost didn't happen. And it's one of the best shows in the entire franchise. Come at me with that. What do you think the best show was, and why is it better than Deep Space Nine? Let me know in the comments. Or, as always, real quick plug, feel free to reach out on my socials, X or Tumblr, or join the Discord community. Let me know how you feel about that. Because this isn't Star Wars. I'm saying it again. This is not Star Wars. This is not about space battles. This is not about expansion and conquering. Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, the guy who created this franchise, whose memory and legacy is being dragged through the mud with some of these shows, wanted a show about exploration and knowledge seeking into the unknown. Let it be that, guys. There is so much we don't know about space. New discoveries are being made constantly that you can tie into your show. Why are you trying to be Star Wars? Be Star Trek. Full stop. Man, stop ruining everybody's memories because you want new fans. Moving on, sorry. I'm as much as I thought that the show got off to a solid start, and I am going to continue watching it, I do not think I'm going to continue doing videos breaking down specific episodes, anything like that, right? If something big happens, if a canon breaking event happens, if a lore elaborating event happens, a new race, whatever it may be, if something actually interesting develops, I'll probably make a video to talk about that, just because I really like Star Trek and I'm invested in this show. I am invested in the story of Caleb Muir. I want to see where this kid goes and if he follows that Kirk trajectory. This is a captain in the making who seems to want to do it the Kirk way, and as a fan of older Star Trek, I am all about that. Final note, Barlow recommends this to anybody not invested in Star Trek lore or canon, or somebody that just wants to watch something for fun and for the entertainment value alone, because I'll be honest, there is a lot of entertainment value with this series. Now, as always, as I do with all of my videos, I'd love to know what you guys think. What ideas do you disagree with? What do you think Starfleet Academy is doing right? Do you believe it's possible for them to dance this line on the canon without tarnishing the memory of the creator? I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments, or as always, y'all can find me on my socials, X and Tumblr, or feel free to join the Discord community. Links to all three will be in the comments below. I hope everybody has an amazing day. Much love, friends.